When Michael Jordan stood on that old wooden bridge where he proposed 15 years ago, his hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold on to the railing. He wasn't the famous basketball player, just a regular guy who lost the love of his life and never understood why. 15 years. That's how long it had been since Diane left him, without a real explanation. 15 years of wondering what he did wrong. 15 years of going to bed alone in a fancy apartment that felt cold and empty. But this morning, everything changed. A mysterious letter arrived at his office with no return address. Inside was just an old photo of their special bridge and 3 words that made his heart stop. She was waiting. Who sent this letter? What did those 3 words mean? And why now, after all these years of silence? Michael couldn't ignore it. He had to know the truth. So he drove straight to Willow Springs Park, the place where he'd gotten down on one knee 20 years ago, with a custom ring and white roses everywhere. As he walked across that bridge, his heart pounding in his chest, he saw something that wasn't there before. Fresh letters carved deep into the wooden railing. Someone had carved a message recently. The wood shavings were still scattered on the ground. Michael's vision blurred as he got closer. The words were clear and deliberate. Someone had spent hours making sure every letter was perfect. But before he could read the whole message, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw a young man standing there, with Diane's exact same brown eyes. "Are you Michael Jordan?" the young man asked, his voice shaking. That's when Michael realized everything he thought he knew about why Diane left was wrong. The truth was so much more heartbreaking than he ever imagined. What did that message say? Who was this young man? And where was Diane now? The answers will absolutely shatter your heart, but they'll also show you what true love really means. Stay watching to discover the devastating truth that Michael had been missing for 15 years. You won't believe what really happened. This is a story about love, sacrifice, and a promise that was 15 years late. But not too late. Watch until the very end, because what happens next will make you believe in love again. Michael Jordan's hands trembled as he gripped the worn wooden railing of the bridge at Willow Springs Park. 15 years. 15 years since he'd stood on this exact spot on one knee, holding a ring that sparkled with hope and promise. 15 years since everything fell apart. The October wind cut through his expensive wool coat, but Michael barely felt it. His eyes were locked on something carved into the railing. Fresh letters cut deep into the wood, letters that hadn't been there all those years ago. Letters that made his heart stop and his world tilt sideways. He'd found it. The message. The thing that had haunted him since that mysterious letter arrived at his penthouse this morning. Michael's breath came in short gasps as he traced the carved words with shaking fingers. The wood was rough beneath his touch, splinters catching on his skin. He didn't care. All he could do was read those devastating words over and over, trying to make sense of them, trying to understand how everything he'd believed for 15 years had been a lie. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me take you back to this morning, to the moment that changed everything. Michael had been sitting in his downtown Chicago office, reviewing blueprints for a new elementary school in the South Side, when his assistant Patricia knocked on his door. "This just came for you," she said, handing him a plain manila envelope. "No return address, just your name and the office address." Michael barely glanced up. "Thanks, Patricia. Just leave it on my desk." "You sure? It looks personal." Something in her tone made him look up. Patricia had worked for him for 8 years. She knew him well enough to read the signs, and she was rarely wrong. He took the envelope from her hands. It was light, almost empty. His name was written in handwriting he didn't recognize. Michael Jordan, Jordan and Associates Architecture. Patricia lingered in the doorway. "Want me to stay?" "I'm fine," he said, though his pulse had quickened. "Close the door on your way out." When she left, Michael sat alone in his glass-walled office, surrounded by the empire he'd built. Awards lined his shelves. Magazine covers featuring his innovative school designs hung on the walls. Everything he'd worked for, everything he'd achieved in the 15 years since his life imploded. He opened the envelope. Inside was a single photograph, creased and faded, and a small piece of paper with 3 handwritten words. The photograph was of a bridge, not just any bridge, their bridge, Willow Springs Park. The wooden structure looked older now, weathered by time, but unmistakable. Someone had drawn a small X on the railing, marking a specific spot. Michael's mouth went dry. He unfolded the paper. 3 words in that same unfamiliar handwriting. She was waiting. That was all. No signature. No explanation. Just those 3 impossible words that reached into his chest and squeezed his heart like a fist. She was waiting. Michael stared at the photograph until it blurred. He hadn't thought about Diane in years. Well, that was a lie he told himself every single day. The truth was, he thought about her constantly. When he woke up alone in his king-size bed, when he attended gallery openings with beautiful women who meant nothing to him, when he designed schools and remembered her passion for teaching children. He thought about her every damn day, but he hadn't allowed himself to really remember in years. He'd buried those memories deep, locked them away where they couldn't hurt him anymore. She was waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting where? And who sent this? Michael's rational mind screamed that this was a prank, a cruel joke, something he should throw away and forget. But his hands were already reaching for his phone, already pulling up flight options to Chicago. Because despite everything, despite the pain, despite the unanswered questions, despite 15 years of silence, a part of him had never stopped hoping. Maybe she wanted to see him again. Maybe she was ready to explain why she left, why she shattered his world without a real explanation. Maybe, impossibly, there was still a chance for answers. Or maybe this was the closure he'd never gotten. Either way, Michael knew he was getting on that plane. He had to know. He had to understand. 3 hours later, he stood in O'Hare Airport with nothing but a carry-on bag and a heart full of questions. By sunset, he was walking through the entrance of Willow Springs Park, his footsteps echoing on the same stone path he'd walked 15 years ago. And now here he was, standing on their bridge, staring at words carved into the wood that broke his heart all over again. But to understand why these words devastated him so completely, you need to know their story. You need to know about the love they built and the way it all came crashing down. You need to know about Diane. Diane Castellano was the kind of woman who could light up a room just by walking into it. Not because she was loud or demanding attention, quite the opposite. She had this quiet warmth that drew people in, like standing near a fireplace on a cold winter night. You just naturally gravitated toward her. Michael first saw her on a Tuesday evening in September 2005. He was 27 years behind the counter of Bean Dreams, a small coffee shop 3 blocks from the University of Chicago, where he was grinding through his final year of graduate school in architecture. The shop smelled like roasted beans and cinnamon, and Michael had memorized every stain on the wooden counter, every chip in the ceramic mugs. This was his life: classes during the day, the coffee shop at night, and stolen hours in between to work on his thesis about designing accessible schools for underserved communities. He survived on 4 hours of sleep and too much caffeine. The bell above the door chimed, and she walked in. Diane wore a yellow cardigan over a simple dress, and her dark curly hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She had paint stains on her fingers, tempera paint in primary colors, and she carried a tote bag overflowing with children's books. She approached the counter with a tired smile. "Hi, can I get a chamomile tea with honey, please?" Michael fumbled with the cup. Her eyes were the warmest brown he'd ever seen, and when she smiled at him, something in his chest shifted. "Sure, chamomile tea, with honey, coming right up." He sounded like an idiot, and he knew it. "Long day?" she asked, leaning against the counter. "Every day is long," Michael said, measuring out the tea leaves with shaking hands. "Graduate school and 2 jobs. You?" "First grade teacher at Lincoln Elementary," Diane said. 23 6-year-olds who think glue is a food group and that scissors are weapons of mass destruction. Michael laughed, really laughed for the first time in weeks. "Sounds dangerous." "You have no idea," she said, but her eyes sparkled with genuine affection. "Best job in the world, though. Every single day, I get to watch kids discover that they can read, that they can create, that they're capable of amazing things. How many people get to do that? The way she talked about her students made Michael's heart ache in a way he couldn't explain. He'd grown up in foster care, bouncing from home to home, never staying anywhere long enough to feel like he mattered to anyone. The idea that someone dedicated their life to making children feel valued and seen, it was beautiful to him. "That sounds incredible," he said softly, handing her the tea. Diane paid and wrapped both hands around the warm cup. "What are you studying?" "Architecture. I want to design schools, actually. Spaces that feel safe and inspiring for kids, especially in neighborhoods that don't usually get that kind of attention." Diane's entire face lit up. "That's amazing. We need more people like you in the world." She left a few minutes later, calling thank you over her shoulder, and Michael stood behind the counter feeling like he'd just been struck by lightning. His coworker Jamie elbowed him in the ribs. "Dude, you're staring." "I'm not staring. You're totally staring, and you forgot to charge her for the honey." Michael looked down at the register. Jamie was right. Diane came back that Thursday, and the following Tuesday, and every Tuesday and Thursday after that for the next 6 weeks. Always the same order: chamomile tea with honey, always the same warm smile, always a few minutes of conversation about her students or his thesis or the weather or nothing at all. Michael lived for those moments. He started looking forward to Tuesdays and Thursdays with an intensity that terrified him. He'd catch himself checking the clock, watching the door, rehearsing things to say to her. Jamie teased him mercilessly. "Just ask her out, man. The suspense is killing me." "I can't," Michael said. "Why not?" "Because women like Diane didn't date guys like him. Because she was sunshine and warmth and everything good in the world. And he was a broke graduate student with a childhood full of abandonment issues and a studio apartment the size of a shoebox." Because he was afraid. But on the 8th Tuesday, Michael made a decision. He wrote his phone number on the side of Diane's cup, right below the chamomile tea label. His hands shook so badly that the numbers were barely legible. When he handed her the cup, his heart pounded so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. Diane noticed the number immediately. She looked at the cup, then at Michael, then back at the cup. For a terrible moment, Michael thought she might laugh or politely ignore it. Instead, she pulled a pen from her tote bag and wrote her own number on a napkin. "I was wondering if you were ever going to do that," she said, sliding the napkin across the counter. "I've been coming here twice a week for 2 months. A girl can only drink so much chamomile tea." Michael's face split into a grin. "You don't even like chamomile tea?" "I hate chamomile tea," Diane admitted, laughing. "But you work Tuesday and Thursday nights, and I needed an excuse." She called him that same night at 11 p.m., right when Michael got home from his shift. "Hi," she said when he answered. "It's Diane from the coffee shop. I hope it's not too late." "It's perfect," Michael said, collapsing onto his futon. "It's absolutely perfect." They talked until 3 in the morning. Diane told him about growing up in a loud Italian family on the South Side. 4 brothers, endless cousins, a grandmother who made fresh pasta every Sunday and fed anyone who walked through the door. Family dinners that lasted 4 hours, holidays where 30 people crammed into her parents' small house. Michael told her about growing up in the system. 5 different foster homes before he aged out at 18. Christmases spent with strangers, never having anyone at his school, plays, or science fairs. Working 2 jobs to put himself through community college before transferring to the university. "I'm sorry," Diane said softly. "That must have been so lonely." "It was," Michael admitted. He'd never told anyone this before. "But it made me want to create spaces where kids feel like they belong, where they feel safe and valued." "You're going to do amazing things, Michael Jordan," Diane said. "I can feel it." "Not the basketball player," Michael said automatically. It was a joke he'd made 1,000 times. "Even better," Diane said. "You're the guy who's going to change kids' lives through beautiful buildings. That's way cooler than basketball." When they finally hung up, Michael lay in the dark feeling something he'd never felt before. Hope, belonging, home. Their first official date was a picnic at Willow Springs Park on a sunny Saturday afternoon in October. Michael packed sandwiches and cheap wine in a borrowed picnic basket. Diane brought homemade cookies that her mother had insisted she take. They spread a blanket under a massive oak tree near a wooden bridge that spanned a small stream. The autumn leaves were just starting to turn gold and red, and the air smelled like earth and possibility. They talked for hours, about everything and nothing. Diane told him about her favorite student, a little boy named Marcus, her nephew, who was struggling to read but never gave up. Michael told her about his thesis project, designing an elementary school with flexible learning spaces and lots of natural light. "Can I tell you something?" Diane said, lying on her back and staring up at the leaves. "Anything. I feel like I've known you forever. Is that crazy?" Michael rolled onto his side to look at her. "If it's crazy, then I'm crazy too." She turned her head to meet his eyes. They were so close he could count the flecks of gold in her brown irises. "Can I kiss you?" he whispered. "I thought you'd never ask," she whispered back. Their first kiss tasted like chocolate chip cookies and promise. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "This is my new favorite place," Diane said, gesturing to the park around them. "Mine too," Michael agreed. They didn't know it then, but this spot, this bridge, this park, would become the setting for the most important moments of their relationship, the place where they fell in love. The place where Michael would propose, and 15 years later, the place where Michael would finally learn the devastating truth. But on that golden October afternoon, they were just two people who'd found something rare and precious. They held hands and watched the sun set over the stream, and everything felt possible. Diane's phone rang, shattering the peaceful moment. She glanced at the screen and her smile faltered, just for a second. "Sorry, I should take this," she said, standing and walking a few feet away. Michael watched her answer. "Hi, Dr. Chen. Yes, I got your message. Thursday at 2? I'll be there." When she came back, her face looked pale, strained. "Everything okay?" Michael asked. Diane smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just scheduling my annual checkup. You know how doctors are, always wanting to run tests." Michael accepted the explanation without question. Why wouldn't he? They'd only just started dating. Everyone had private things, medical appointments, parts of their lives they weren't ready to share yet. He had no idea that phone call was the first shadow falling across their future. No idea that Diane was already carrying a secret that would eventually tear them apart. But that knowledge lived somewhere in the future. For now, in the autumn of 2005, Michael and Diane were simply two people falling hopelessly in love. 3 years passed like a beautiful dream. Michael graduated with his master's degree and landed a position at Barrett & Sons, one of Chicago's most respected architectural firms. It wasn't designing schools yet. Mostly he drew up plans for office buildings and luxury condos. But it was a start, a real salary, health insurance, a future. Diane became head teacher at Lincoln Elementary, running professional development workshops and mentoring new teachers. She still taught her first graders, still came home with paint on her clothes and stories that made Michael laugh until his sides hurt. They moved into a small apartment together in Pilsen, a neighborhood where murals covered brick walls and the smell of fresh tortillas drifted from corner bakeries. It wasn't fancy. The radiator clanked and the neighbors were loud. But it was theirs. Diane filled it with warmth. Family photos covered the refrigerator. Her grandmother's quilt draped over the couch. Plants lined the windowsills, though Diane killed most of them with aggressive overwatering. "I can keep 23 children alive," she'd say, staring at another dead fern. "But I cannot keep a plant alive to save my life." Michael would kiss her forehead and throw the dead plant away, and they'd laugh about it. Those years weren't perfect. Money was tight. Michael worked long hours. Diane brought home stacks of papers to grade every night. Sometimes they were too tired to do more than collapse on the couch with takeout and Netflix. But they were happy. God, they were happy. Michael had never known happiness like this. Growing up in foster care, he learned not to get attached, not to hope for permanence. People left, homes changed, nothing lasted. But Diane stayed. Every morning she was there. Every night she came home to him. She introduced him to her massive, chaotic family, and they absorbed him like he'd always belonged. Her mother, Rosa, treated him like a son. Her father, Vincent, taught him to make homemade sauce every Sunday. Her brothers included him in their fantasy football league and argued with him about the Cubs. And her nephew, Marcus, the little boy Diane had mentioned on their first date, attached himself to Michael like a barnacle. "Will you build Legos with me?" Marcus would ask every Sunday dinner. Always, Michael would say. They'd spend hours on Rosa's living room floor, constructing elaborate cities and spaceships, while Diane watched from the couch, her eyes soft with something Michael couldn't quite name. Love, yes, but also something else. Something that looked almost like sadness. He'd catch her staring at him sometimes with tears in her eyes. "What's wrong?" he'd ask. "Nothing," she'd say, wiping her eyes quickly. "I'm just happy. Sometimes happiness makes me cry." Michael accepted this because he had no reason not to. Because Diane seemed healthy and vibrant. Because when he asked if she was okay, she always said yes. He didn't know she was lying. By October 2008, Michael had saved enough money for a ring. He'd been planning the proposal for months, designing it with the same meticulous attention he brought to his architectural projects. Every detail mattered. Every element had to be perfect. The ring took the longest. Michael worked with a jeweler in the loop, sketching exactly what he wanted. A central emerald, Diane's birthstone, surrounded by small diamonds arranged to look like children holding hands in a circle. For her love of teaching, he explained to the jeweler, an elderly man named Saul, who'd been crafting engagement rings for 40 years. Saul studied the sketch. "This is beautiful, really beautiful. She's a lucky woman." "I'm the lucky one," Michael said. The ring cost him 3 months' of salary. He didn't care. Diane was worth everything. Next came the location. It had to be Willow Springs Park, the place of their first date. Michael drove out there on a Wednesday afternoon, scouting the perfect spot on the bridge. He bribed the park groundskeeper with $200 to let him plant white roses along the path leading to the bridge. Diane's favorite flowers. The groundskeeper, a man named Harold who'd worked there for 30 years, seemed charmed by the gesture. "Young love," Harold said, shaking Michael's hand. "Good luck, son. I hope she says yes." "So do I," Michael admitted. The Saturday before the proposal, Michael asked Vincent for permission to marry Diane. They sat in Vincent's garage, surrounded by tools and the smell of motor oil. "I know it's old-fashioned," Michael said, his hands shaking. "But I wanted to ask, I love your daughter more than anything in this world. I promise to take care of her, to support her dreams, to be the partner she deserves." Vincent was quiet for a long moment. Then his eyes filled with tears. "She told us you'd ask," he said gruffly. "Rosa and me, we love you like our own son, Michael. You make our daughter happy. That's all we've ever wanted for her." "So, is that a yes?" Vincent pulled him into a bear hug. "That's a yes. Welcome to the family, son." That night, Rosa cornered Michael in the kitchen while Diane was in the bathroom. "You're really going to do it?" Rosa asked, her accent thicker than usual. It always got thicker when she was emotional. "Next Saturday," Michael confirmed, "at the park where we had our first date." Rosa's eyes welled with tears. She grabbed Michael's face in both hands the way she always did when she had something important to say. "Love her with everything you have, Michael," she said intensely. "Time is more precious than we know. Don't waste a single moment. Promise me." "I promise," Michael said, confused by the urgency in her voice. "Rosa, is everything okay?" She released his face and turned away, wiping her eyes. "Everything's fine. I'm just an emotional Italian mother. Ignore me." Michael laughed it off. Rosa was always dramatic, crying at commercials, hugging strangers, treating every moment like it was life or death. He had no idea she was trying to warn him, no idea that she knew the truth about Diane's health, no idea that time really was more precious than he knew. October 11th, 2008 dawned clear and golden. Michael barely slept the night before. He lay awake going over every detail, making sure nothing could go wrong. The ring was in his jacket pocket. The roses were planted. Harold the groundskeeper had confirmed everything was ready. All Michael had to do was get Diane to the park. "I want to take you somewhere," he said over breakfast. Diane looked up from her coffee, curious. "Where?" "It's a surprise. Wear something comfortable and bring a jacket. It might be cool this afternoon." "Michael Jordan, are you being mysterious?" Diane teased. "Maybe," he said, kissing her forehead. She had no idea what was coming. Michael had been so careful, so secretive. He'd even lied about working late several nights so he could meet with the jeweler and the groundskeeper without raising suspicion. They drove to Willow Springs Park just after 3 p.m., when the autumn sun was starting to slant golden through the trees. Michael's hands were sweating on the steering wheel. "This is our park," Diane said as they pulled into the parking lot, her face lighting up. "I haven't been here in forever." "I know. I thought it would be nice to come back." They walked hand in hand down the path. Michael had timed it perfectly. The park was nearly empty, just a few joggers in the distance. Then Diane saw the roses. White roses lined both sides of the path, leading toward the bridge like a fragrant, snowy corridor. "Michael," she breathed, Did you do this?" "Keep walking," he said, his heart hammering. Diane walked slowly, trailing her fingers over the rose petals, her eyes wide with wonder. When they reached the bridge, their bridge, the place where they'd first kissed, she turned to face him. That's when Michael dropped to one knee. Diane's hands flew to her mouth. Tears were already streaming down her face. "Diane Castellano," Michael began, his voice shaking. He'd practiced this speech 100 times, but now his mind was blank. He could only speak from his heart. "I spent the first 27 years of my life feeling like I was on the outside looking in. Like I didn't belong anywhere. Like I was just passing through everyone else's story." Diane was crying openly now, but she didn't interrupt. "Then I met you," Michael continued, "and you opened the door. You invited me in. You showed me what home feels like. You introduced me to your family, and they became my family. You taught me that I'm not just passing through, I'm here to stay." He pulled the ring box from his pocket and opened it. Diane gasped when she saw the emeralds surrounded by diamonds shaped like children holding hands. "You're my home, Diane. You're my family. You're my future. You're my everything." His voice broke. "Will you marry me?" For one terrible second, Diane just stared at him. Her face cycled through emotions too quickly to read. Joy, sorrow, fear, love. Something that looked almost like grief. Then she dropped to her knees on the bridge beside him and threw her arms around his neck. "Yes," she sobbed into his shoulder. "Yes, Michael. Yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger with trembling hands. It fit perfectly. She held her hand up to the light, watching the emerald catch the sun, and cried harder. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," she whispered. Michael kissed her, tasting salt from her tears. Around them, the white roses released their perfume into the autumn air. Everything was perfect. Everything was exactly as Michael had planned, except for one thing. When Diane pulled back from the kiss, Michael saw something in her eyes that didn't match the moment. A shadow, a flicker of something that looked like pain. "Are you okay?" he asked. "You seem—" "I'm perfect," Diane said quickly, kissing him again. "I'm so happy, Michael. So happy. These are happy tears, I promise." And he believed her, because why wouldn't he? They'd just gotten engaged. Of course she was crying happy tears. He didn't see the way her hands shook as she admired the ring. Didn't see the way she closed her eyes like she was in pain when he wasn't looking. Didn't see the silent apology written all over her face. That night, they celebrated with Diane's entire family at Rosa and Vincent's house. There was champagne and homemade pasta, and so much laughter that the neighbors complained about the noise. Marcus, now 10 years old, examined Diane's ring with the serious intensity only a child can muster. "Does this mean Michael is going to be my uncle?" he asked. "Something like that," Diane said, ruffling his hair. "Good," Marcus declared. "He's the best at Legos. I'm keeping him." Everyone laughed. Michael felt like his heart might burst from happiness. But later, when most of the guests had left, Michael found Rosa in the kitchen washing dishes. She was crying silently, tears running down her face as she scrubbed a pot. "Rosa!" Michael approached carefully. "What's wrong? Aren't you happy?" She turned to him, her face stricken. "I'm so happy, Michael. So happy that my daughter has you. That she got to experience this love, this joy, that she—" She cut herself off abruptly, like she'd said too much. "That she what?" Michael asked. Rosa shook her head. "Nothing. Ignore an old woman's rambling. Go be with your fiancé. Dance with her. Make her laugh. Love her with everything you have." There was that phrase again. Love her with everything you have. Michael hugged Rosa and went back to the living room, where Diane was dancing with her father to an old Italian love song. She looked radiant, beautiful, perfectly happy. He pushed Rosa's strange words out of his mind. He didn't know that in 6 months everything would fall apart. Didn't know that Diane was already carrying a secret that was eating her alive. Didn't know that every smile, every laugh, every moment of joy was shadowed by the knowledge of what she was hiding. That night, lying in bed with Diane's head on his chest and her ring glinting in the moonlight, Michael felt like the luckiest man alive. "I can't wait to marry you," he whispered into her hair. Diane's arms tightened around him. "I love you, Michael Jordan, more than you'll ever know." "I love you too." What he didn't hear was the rest of her thought, the words she kept locked inside. "I love you too much to do this to you." The words Diane never spoke aloud became the poison that slowly killed their relationship from the inside. The engagement should have been the happiest time of their lives. They should have been tasting cakes and choosing flowers and arguing playfully about whether to invite Michael's college roommate, who always drank too much at weddings. Instead, Diane began to disappear. It started small. So small that Michael almost didn't notice at first. 2 weeks after the proposal, Diane canceled their appointment with the wedding venue coordinator. "Something came up at school," she said. "Can we reschedule?" They rescheduled for the following week. She canceled again. "I'm so sorry," she said, her eyes not quite meeting his. "There's this student who's really struggling, and I need to meet with his parents." Michael understood. Of course he understood. Diane's students always came first. It was one of the things he loved about her. But then she canceled the cake tasting, and the meeting with the florist, and the appointment to look at wedding dresses with her mother and sisters-in-law. "Are you having second thoughts?" Michael finally asked one night in December, 3 months after the proposal. They were sitting on their couch, Diane curled at the opposite end instead of tucked against his side like she usually was. "What?" "No!" Diane's head snapped up. "Why would you ask that?" "Because you've canceled every single wedding planning appointment we've made," Michael said carefully. "Because you barely talk about the wedding anymore. Because sometimes I look at you and you seem, I don't know, somewhere else." Diane's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. I've just been so stressed at work. The standardized testing is coming up and I'm behind on lesson plans and—" "Diane." Michael moved closer, taking her hands. They were cold, trembling. "Talk to me, please. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it together." She pulled her hands away. "There's nothing wrong. I'm just tired, Michael. Can we please not do this right now?" That became her standard response. "I'm just tired. Can we not do this right now?" Everything's fine. But everything was not fine. Michael started noticing other things. The way Diane had lost weight, her clothes hanging loose on her frame, the dark circles under her eyes that no amount of concealer could hide, the tremor in her hands when she thought he wasn't looking. She was taking more and more days off work. She'd disappear for hours with vague explanations about errands or meetings that never quite added up. One evening in January, Michael came home early from work and heard Diane in the bedroom, her voice low and urgent. "I know, Dr. Chen. I understand the risks, but I need more time." "No, I haven't told him yet. I can't, because he'll want to stay, and I can't let him sacrifice." The floor creaked under Michael's foot. Diane's voice cut off abruptly. Michael stood frozen in the hallway, his heart pounding. Dr. Chen, that was the doctor Diane had called way back on their first date. The one she said was just for a routine checkup. What risks? What sacrifice? He pushed the bedroom door open. Diane was sitting on the edge of their bed, phone clutched in her hand, mascara streaking down her face. She looked devastated, terrified, caught. "Michael," she whispered. "Who was that?" he asked, though he already knew. "What risks, Diane? What haven't you told me?" She stood up, wiping her eyes frantically. "It's nothing. Just some routine medical stuff. Nothing to worry about." "Routine medical stuff doesn't make you cry like that," Michael said. His voice was shaking now too. "Routine medical stuff doesn't involve risks and sacrifices. Diane, please, just tell me the truth." She opened her mouth. For one moment, Michael thought she was finally going to explain everything, finally going to let him in. But then her phone rang again, the ringtone she'd set for her mother. Diane answered it, her face going pale. "Mama, what's wrong?" Michael watched the color drain from her face. When? Is he? Okay, we're coming right now. She hung up and grabbed her coat. It's my father. He's had a heart attack. We need to get to Northwestern Memorial. Just like that, the moment was gone. Whatever Diane had been about to confess was swallowed by the emergency. They rushed to the hospital and spent the next 12 hours in the waiting room with Diane's entire family. Vincent survived. The doctor said he'd been lucky. They caught it early, but he'd need surgery and lifestyle changes. In the chaos and fear of that night, with Rosa sobbing and Diane's brothers pacing and Marcus asking if Grandpa was going to die, Michael forgot about the phone conversation he'd overheard, or rather he told himself they'd talk about it later, when things calmed down, when Vincent was stable, but later never came. February arrived and with it, the final unraveling. Diane's father recovered and came home from the hospital. Life should have returned to normal. Instead, Diane seemed to retreat further into herself. She stopped eating dinner with Michael. She'd pick at her food, push it around her plate, then claim she wasn't hungry. She stopped sleeping. Michael would wake up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning to find her side of the bed empty. He'd find her sitting in the dark living room, staring at nothing. Come back to bed, he'd say. In a minute, she'd reply. But she never did. She stopped touching him. No more casual kisses in the kitchen. No more hand-holding on the couch. When Michael tried to hug her, she'd stiffen and pull away. The engagement ring stayed on her finger, but sometimes Michael caught her staring at it with an expression of such profound sadness that it made his chest ache. He tried everything. He cooked her favorite meals. He planned surprise dates. He asked her family if they knew what was wrong. Rosa would just shake her head, tears in her eyes. You're a good man, Michael. Whatever happens, remember that you're a good man. What's going to happen? Michael demanded. Rosa, please. Everyone's acting like there's some terrible secret, and I'm the only one who doesn't know what it is. But Rosa wouldn't say more. Diane's brothers claimed ignorance. Her father patted his shoulder sympathetically, but offered no explanation. Only Marcus, innocent 10-year-old Marcus, gave Michael any hint. Is Aunt Diane sick? He asked one Sunday after Diane had excused herself from dinner early, claiming a headache. Why would you ask that? Michael said, his blood running cold. Because Mama and Grandma were talking, Marcus said, playing with his Lego spaceship. They said Aunt Diane was running out of time. That she had to tell you before it was too late. Tell you what? Michael's hands clenched into fists. I don't know, buddy. But he was going to find out. On a Friday night in late February, Michael made a decision. Diane had gone to bed early, again, claiming exhaustion. Michael waited until he heard her breathing even out, then quietly got up and went to her purse. His hands shook as he searched through it. He felt like a criminal, violating her privacy like this. But he was desperate. Everyone around him seemed to know some terrible truth, and he was drowning in uncertainty. He found her phone and unlocked it with the passcode they'd always shared openly. His birthday. There were dozens of texts from her mother, from Dr. Chen's office, confirming appointments, from something called the Huntington's Disease Society of America. Michael's fingers went numb. Huntington's disease. He knew that name. He'd learned about it in a biology class years ago. A genetic disorder, degenerative, progressive, fatal. No, this had to be a mistake. With shaking hands, Michael opened the text from Dr. Chen's office. Reminder, follow-up appointment Tuesday 2 p.m. MRI results available. Please call to discuss treatment options. Genetic counseling session scheduled for next week. Treatment options, genetic counseling. Michael felt like he was falling, the floor disappearing beneath his feet. He navigated to Diane's search history, found page after page about Huntington's disease, life expectancy, symptoms, early onset, care facilities. She'd been researching for over a year, since before he proposed. She'd known. She'd known and she'd said yes anyway, and then she'd been trying to figure out how to leave him without telling him why. Michael's vision blurred. He couldn't breathe. The phone slipped from his hands and clattered onto the hardwood floor. The noise woke Diane. She appeared in the living room doorway, her hair messy from sleep, wearing one of his old t-shirts. When she saw him sitting on the couch with her phone on the floor between them, her face went white. Michael, she whispered, Huntington's disease, he said. His voice sounded hollow. Dead. You have Huntington's disease. It wasn't a question. Diane's legs seemed to give out. She sank to the floor right there in the doorway, her whole body shaking. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. Michael wanted to go to her, wanted to hold her, but he felt paralyzed, frozen by the enormity of what he'd just learned. How long have you known? He asked. 3 years, she whispered, since right after we started dating. 3 years. Their entire relationship had been built on this lie. The phone call on our first date, Michael said, pieces falling into place. Dr. Chen, you already knew then. I'd just gotten the genetic test results back, Diane said, still huddled on the floor. My mother is a carrier. I'd started having symptoms. The tremors, the mood swings. I knew something was wrong, so I got tested. And you didn't tell me. I was going to. Diane looked up at him, her face streaked with tears. That first date, I was going to tell you and then end things before they even started. But Michael, you were so kind and so wonderful, and I thought maybe I deserved something good. Even if it couldn't last. So you lied, Michael said flatly. I didn't lie. I didn't tell you. That's the same thing, Diane. His voice rose, anger finally breaking through the shock. We've been together for 3 years. We're engaged. We're supposed to get married in 6 months. And you've been hiding this the entire time? I know, Diane was sobbing now, gasping for air between words. I know it was wrong. But I fell in love with you, and I couldn't bear to give you up. And I kept thinking maybe the doctors were wrong, or maybe they'd find a treatment, or maybe... Maybe what? Michael demanded. Maybe you could keep lying to me forever? No, I was going to tell you. I've been trying to find the right time. There's never going to be a right time to tell someone you're dying. The word hung in the air between them. Dying. Diane flinched like he'd slapped her. Michael's anger drained away, leaving only devastating sadness. He slid off the couch and crawled across the floor to where Diane sat crumpled against the doorframe. I'm sorry, he said, pulling her into his arms. I'm sorry, I didn't mean... But it's true, Diane said into his chest. I am dying. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but eventually. The disease is going to take everything from me. My motor control, my cognition, my ability to speak and swallow and recognize the people I love. It's going to turn me into someone you won't recognize. And I can't. I won't do that to you. You don't get to make that decision for me, Michael said fiercely. I love you, Diane. In sickness and in health, remember? That's the promise I wanted to make. Which is exactly why I can't marry you, Diane said, pulling back to look at him. Her eyes were red and swollen but determined. Michael, you grew up without a family, without anyone to take care of you. You deserve a wife who can give you children and grow old with you and be your partner, not your patient. I don't want anyone else. I want you. You say that now, Diane said sadly. But in 5 years, when I can't feed myself, in 10 years, when I don't remember your name, when you're changing my diapers and watching me waste away, you'll resent me. You'll wish you'd married someone healthy. That's not true. It is true, Diane's voice broke. And even if it's not, even if you really would stay and care for me through all of it, I can't let you. I love you too much to trap you in that life. Michael felt something cracking inside his chest. So what are you saying? You're just going to leave? Throw away everything we have because you think you know what's best for me? Yes, Diane whispered. That's exactly what I'm going to do. She stood up, wiping her face with the hem of her t-shirt. Michael watched from the floor, unable to move. I'll stay with my parents tonight, Diane said. We can figure out the apartment and everything else later. But Michael, I need you to understand, this isn't about not loving you. This is about loving you too much. That doesn't make any sense, Michael said. I know, Diane said, but it's the truth. She went into their bedroom and started packing a bag. Michael sat on the living room floor, his world crumbling around him, and did nothing to stop her. Because what could he say? How could he argue against her fear and her love and her determination to protect him from a future she believed would destroy them both? 20 minutes later, Diane stood at the door with a duffel bag over her shoulder. She wasn't wearing her engagement ring anymore. It sat on the coffee table, the emerald catching the lamplight. "I'm sorry, Michael," she said one more time. "You deserve so much better than this." Then she left. And Michael sat in the empty apartment surrounded by her things, her books, her photos, her presence in every corner, and finally let himself fall apart. He didn't cry at first. He just sat on the cold hardwood floor, staring at the engagement ring on the coffee table. The ring he'd spent 3 months' salary on. The ring he'd designed specifically for her, with those little diamonds shaped like children holding hands. The ring she'd taken off and left behind like it meant nothing. Like he meant nothing. The sun rose. Light crept across the floor, illuminating dust particles floating in the air. Michael didn't move. His legs were numb. His chest felt hollow, like someone had reached inside and scooped out everything vital. His phone buzzed. A text from his boss. "Where are you? Client meeting in 20 minutes. Michael stared at the message until the screen went dark. He couldn't go to work, couldn't pretend to care about office buildings and blueprints when his entire world had just collapsed. He called in sick. Then he turned off his phone. For 3 days, Michael existed in a fog of shock and denial. He didn't eat, barely slept. He'd drift off on the couch, only to wake up reaching for Diane, his hand finding empty space where she should be. He called her phone 73 times. She never answered. He sent texts that got more desperate with each one. "Please just talk to me. We can figure this out together. I don't care about the disease. I only care about you. Diane, please don't do this." No response. On the 4th day, Michael forced himself to shower and eat something. Then he drove to Lincoln Elementary School, where Diane taught. The secretary at the front desk recognized him. "Hi, Michael. Here to surprise Ms. Castellano?" "Is she here?" Michael asked. The secretary's smile faltered. "Oh, I thought you knew. She called in yesterday and took a leave of absence. Said it was a family emergency. Didn't she tell you?" Michael felt like he'd been punched. "Right. The family emergency. I forgot. Thanks." He left before the secretary could ask more questions. Next, he drove to Rosa and Vincent's house. Diane's car was in the driveway. His heart leaped. She was here. He could talk to her, make her understand, convince her they could fight this together. Rosa answered the door. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Michael," she said softly, "you shouldn't be here. I need to see Diane. Please, Rosa. Just 5 minutes." "She doesn't want to see you." Rosa's voice was gentle but firm. This is hard enough for her without." "Hard for her?" Michael's voice cracked. "What about me? Doesn't what I want matter?" Rosa's face crumpled. "Of course it matters, but Michael, you have to understand. My daughter is terrified. She's watched her own mother, me, go through the early stages of this disease. She knows what's coming. And she loves you too much to make you watch." "I don't get a choice," Michael demanded. "She just decides for both of us and that's it? She's trying to protect you. I don't want to be protected." Michael was shouting now, not caring if the neighbors heard. "I want to be with the woman I love. I want to marry her and take care of her and be there for her. Why doesn't anyone understand that?" Rosa stepped forward and took his face in her hands, just like she had the night he asked Vincent for permission to marry Diane. "Because you're good, Michael," she said, tears streaming down her face. "You're so good that you'd sacrifice everything for her. Your dreams of a family, children, a normal life. You'd give it all up without hesitation. And Diane can't live with that guilt. Do you understand? She can't be the reason you lose everything you've ever wanted." "She is everything I've ever wanted," Michael whispered. Rosa kissed his forehead like a mother would. "I know, my son, I know. But sometimes love means letting go." "I can't," Michael said. "I can't let her go." "Then I'm sorry," Rosa said. "But Diane has made her choice. Please, Michael, respect it. Let her do this her way." She stepped back and gently closed the door. Michael stood on the porch for a long time, staring at that closed door. Behind it was the woman he loved, the woman he'd planned to spend his life with, and he couldn't reach her. He drove home in a daze. When he walked into the apartment, everything reminded him of Diane. Her coffee mug in the sink, her books on the shelves, the stupid dead plant on the windowsill that she'd been convinced she could save. Michael picked up the plant and threw it across the room. The pot shattered against the wall, dirt exploding across the hardwood floor. Then he grabbed her books and threw those too, pulled her photos off the refrigerator and ripped them in half, yanked her clothes out of the closet and stuffed them in garbage bags. He wanted to erase her, wanted to make it stop hurting, but nothing helped. Finally, exhausted and surrounded by destruction, Michael collapsed on the couch and cried. Really cried, for the first time since she left. Huge, gasping sobs that hurt his chest and made it hard to breathe. He cried for what they'd lost, for the future they'd never have, for the lies she'd told and the truth she'd hidden, for the unfairness of a disease that would take her away piece by piece. He cried until he had nothing left. A week after Diane left, Michael received an envelope in the mail. His hand shook as he opened it. Inside was the engagement ring and a handwritten note on Diane's stationery, the fancy kind her mother had given her for Christmas, with little flowers in the corners. Michael, I'm returning this because it belongs to a future we can't have. You designed it for the woman you thought I was, someone who could give you forever. But I can't be that person. I release you from your promise, from the life we planned, from the obligation to stand by me through what's coming. Find someone who can give you everything you deserve. Have children. Design beautiful schools. Grow old with someone who won't forget your name. What we had was real and beautiful, and I'll treasure it for whatever time I have left. But it's over now. Please don't look for me. Please don't try to change my mind. Please, Michael, move on. Be happy. Live the life you were meant to live. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm sorry I couldn't be the same for you. I love you. I'll always love you. Diane Michael read the letter 3 times, each word cutting deeper than the last. I release you from your promise. Like it was that simple. Like love was something you could just turn off with a formal declaration. Please move on. How? How was he supposed to move on from the only person who'd ever made him feel like he belonged somewhere? Michael looked at the ring sitting in his palm. The emerald glinted accusingly. All those hours working with the jeweler, all those plans and dreams and hopes, gone. He should have thrown the ring away, should have returned it for a refund, should have done anything other than what he actually did. Instead, Michael took the ring to a jeweler and had it put on a silver chain. Then he put the chain around his neck, the ring resting against his heart. If Diane wouldn't wear it, he would carry it for both of them. 2 weeks became a month became 2. Michael existed in a state of numb functionality. He went to work, he designed buildings, he came home to the empty apartment and stared at the walls. His boss pulled him aside one day. "Jordan, are you okay? You've been different lately." "I'm fine," Michael lied. "You don't seem fine. You seem..." "I said I'm fine." Michael's tone left no room for argument. His co-worker and only real friend, Patricia, tried a gentler approach. She brought him coffee and sat in his office even when he didn't want company. "Want to talk about it?" she asked. "No." "Want to go get drunk and not talk about it?" "No." "Want me to leave you alone?" "Yes." Patricia didn't leave. She just sat there, a quiet presence, until Michael finally cracked. "She left me," he said. "She's sick and she left me because she thinks it's what's best for me, and I can't." His voice broke. "I can't make her understand that I don't care. I don't care about the disease or the future or any of it. I just want her." "I'm sorry," Patricia said. "That's really, really awful." "Yeah," Michael said. "It is. For what it's worth, if she loves you enough to walk away to protect you, even when it's killing her, that's real love. Misguided as hell, but real." Michael didn't find that comforting. Real love was supposed to mean staying, not leaving. 3 months after Diane left, Michael made one final attempt. He drove back to Rosa and Vincent's house, determination replacing desperation. He'd spent weeks thinking, planning what he'd say. He'd fight for her, make her see reason. But when Rosa opened the door, she looked older than he'd ever seen her, exhausted, defeated. "She's not here, Michael," Rosa said before he could speak. "Where is she?" Rosa hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "She moved to Portland, Oregon. There's a treatment facility there, specialists in Huntington's disease. She left 2 days ago." The ground tilted beneath Michael's feet. "Portland. She moved to Portland. She said it would be easier this way. A clean break. She asked me to tell you if you came looking. She wanted you to know she's gone so you can finally move forward. A clean break. Like they were a broken bone that needed to be reset. Did she leave a number? An address? She asked me not to give you that information, Rosa said, her voice heavy with regret. She needs to do this, Michael. She needs to know you're living your life, not waiting for her. What if I want to wait? Then you're wasting your life on someone who can't give you a future, Rosa said bluntly. I love my daughter more than anything in this world, but she's right about this. You deserve a life, Michael. Children, happiness, things she can't give you anymore. Michael felt something inside him shut down, some last fragment of hope finally dying. Tell her, he swallowed hard. Tell her I hope she finds what she's looking for in Portland. It was the closest he could come to goodbye. Rosa pulled him into a hug. You're always part of this family, Michael. Always. Don't forget that. But as Michael drove away from the house, from Diane's family, from the life they'd built together, he knew that wasn't true. He wasn't part of the family anymore. He was a reminder of what Diane had lost, of the future she'd sacrificed. It was better for everyone if he disappeared. That night, Michael did something he'd been avoiding for 3 months. He drove to Willow Springs Park. It was late March, still cold, the trees bare and skeletal against the twilight sky. The park was empty, closed technically, but the gates weren't locked. Michael walked the familiar path to the bridge. The white roses he'd planted for the proposal were long dead, brown stalks poking through patches of melting snow. He stood in the center of the bridge, in the exact spot where he'd knelt and asked Diane to marry him, where she'd said yes with tears in her eyes and a lie on her lips. Michael gripped the railing until his knuckles turned white. Then he screamed. All the pain and anger and grief he'd been holding inside came pouring out in one long, anguished cry that echoed across the empty park. He screamed until his throat was raw, until he had no voice left, until the only sound was his ragged breathing and the wind through the bare branches. When he was done, Michael sank to his knees on the cold wooden planks. I would have stayed, he whispered to no one. I would have loved you through all of it. Why wasn't that enough? The bridge didn't answer. The wind died down, and Michael was alone. He stayed there until full dark, until the cold seeped through his clothes and made him shiver. Then he stood up, touched the ring hanging around his neck one more time, and walked away. He didn't look back. He told himself he'd never come back to this place. These memories were too painful. This bridge held too many ghosts. He had no idea that 15 years later, a mysterious letter would bring him back to this exact spot. Had no idea that the truth was so much more complicated than he'd imagined. Had no idea that Diane's sacrifice had been even greater than he'd known. But that revelation lay in the future. For now, Michael walked away from Willow Springs Park and began the long, painful process of trying to rebuild a life without the only woman he'd ever loved. It would take years, and in truth, he'd never quite succeed. The first year after Diane left was the hardest. Michael threw himself into work with an intensity that worried even his most ambitious colleagues. He arrived at the office before sunrise and stayed until the cleaning crew kicked him out at midnight. Weekends meant nothing to him. Holidays were just empty days to fill with blueprints and building codes. His boss, David Barrett, called him into his office one rainy afternoon in November, 9 months after Diane had moved to Portland. Jordan, sit down, Barrett said, gesturing to a leather chair. Michael remained standing. If this is about the Henderson project, I'm already revising the... It's not about Henderson, it's about you. Barrett leaned back in his chair, studying Michael with the same analytical gaze he used to evaluate buildings. You're working yourself to death. 70, 80-hour weeks. You look like hell. When's the last time you took a day off? I don't need days off. I need to work. Everyone needs days off, Barrett said. What happened to you, Michael? You used to talk about balance, about designing schools so kids could have better lives. Now you're just running. What are you running from? Michael's jaw tightened. Nothing. I'm just focused on my career. Barrett sighed. Listen, your work is exceptional, better than anyone else in this firm, but you're burning out. Take a vacation. See your friends. Get a hobby. Do something other than work. I'm fine, Michael said flatly. But he wasn't fine. Barrett was right. He was running. Running from memories of Diane. From the empty apartment that still smelled like her perfume. From the engagement ring that hung around his neck like an albatross. Work was the only thing that made sense anymore. Buildings didn't leave. Blueprints didn't lie. Concrete and steel were predictable, reliable, safe. People were none of those things. Year 2 brought small changes. Patricia, his assistant, finally wore Michael down enough that he agreed to attend a gallery opening with her. Just as friends, she insisted, you need to remember what sunlight looks like. The gallery was in River North, all white walls and pretentious artist statements. Michael hated it immediately, but Patricia dragged him around, introducing him to people, forcing him to make small talk. This is Michael Jordan, she'd say. He's an architect. And no, not the basketball player. Michael smiled and shook hands and felt like he was watching himself from very far away. A woman named Jennifer approached him near a sculpture that looked like twisted metal garbage. She was pretty, blonde, worked in marketing. She laughed at his jokes and touched his arm when they talked. We should get coffee sometime, Jennifer said, handing him her business card. Michael looked at the card, looked at Jennifer's hopeful smile, thought about Diane in Portland, probably not thinking about him at all. Sure, he heard himself say. Coffee sounds good. They went out 3 times. Jennifer was nice, smart, easy to talk to. She didn't ask complicated questions or expect emotional vulnerability. She seemed content with surface-level conversation about movies and restaurants and work. On their 4th date, Jennifer invited him back to her apartment. Michael stood in her doorway, his heart pounding. This was it. This was where he was supposed to move on, where he was supposed to prove that Diane hadn't ruined him for everyone else. I'm sorry, he said. I can't. I'm not ready. Jennifer's face fell, but she nodded. It's okay. There's someone else? There was, Michael said. It's over, but I can't. I understand, Jennifer said, though her eyes said she didn't. Michael never called her again. Patricia confronted him about it the next week. What happened with Jennifer? She seemed perfect for you. She wasn't Diane, Michael said before he could stop himself. Patricia's expression softened. Oh, Michael, how long are you going to do this to yourself? I don't know, he admitted. Maybe forever. Years 3 through 5 passed in a blur of work and loneliness. Michael got promoted to senior architect. He started leading his own projects, finally getting the chance to design the kinds of schools he and Diane had once dreamed about together. His first major project was an elementary school in Englewood, one of Chicago's most underserved neighborhoods. He designed it with huge windows to flood the classrooms with natural light, reading nooks in every corner, an art room with a kiln and proper ventilation, a library that felt like a castle. The day it opened, Michael stood outside watching children pour through the doors, their faces bright with excitement and wonder. He touched the ring under his shirt and whispered, "We did it, Diane, just like we planned." It felt like both a victory and a defeat. He dated occasionally during these years, a lawyer named Rebecca, a teacher named Amy, though that relationship ended quickly because being with a teacher just reminded him of Diane, a graphic designer named Sophia who was sweet but ultimately forgettable. None of them lasted more than a few months. None of them got close enough to learn about the ring he wore, about the woman he'd lost. Patricia stopped setting him up after Sophia. "You're not ready," she said. "Maybe you'll never be ready, and that's okay. But stop pretending for my sake." Michael was grateful for her honesty. Years 6 through 10 brought financial success and emotional stagnation. Michael started his own firm at 37, Jordan and Associates Architecture. The associates were mostly Patricia and 2 junior architects he'd poached from Barrett's firm, but it sounded more impressive. The firm specialized in educational facilities for low-income communities. Everything Michael designed had Diane's fingerprints on it. Warm spaces that made children feel valued, rooms built for creativity and growth, buildings that said you matter to every kid who walked through the doors. He won awards, got featured in architectural magazines, was invited to speak at conferences about socially conscious design. He became wealthy, not billionaire wealthy, but comfortable. He bought a penthouse apartment in the Loop with floor-to-ceiling windows and views of Lake Michigan. He hired an interior designer who made it look like something from a magazine, all clean lines and expensive furniture. The place was beautiful and soulless. Michael barely noticed. Patricia, who'd become his business partner and closest friend, staged an intervention one evening after everyone else had left the office. "You need to stop," she said. "Stop what?" "This." She gestured at his desk, buried under project proposals and sketches. "Working yourself to death. You're 42 years old, Michael. You're successful and respected and completely alone. When's the last time you went on a real date? Saw your friends? Did anything that wasn't work?" "I have friends," Michael protested weakly. "You have colleagues. It's not the same thing." Patricia's voice softened. "I know someone hurt you. I know you lost something important, but you can't spend your entire life punishing yourself for it." "I'm not punishing myself. I'm just focused." "You're hiding," Patricia said bluntly, "and I'm worried about you." Michael wanted to argue, but she was right. He was hiding. Building walls of concrete and steel around his heart, designing beautiful spaces for other people while living in an emotional wasteland himself. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. "I want you to try," Patricia said. "Really try. Go on dates and actually give people a chance. Join a book club or a gym or something. Reconnect with your life outside of work." "I'll think about it," Michael said. He didn't think about it. Years 11 through 15 were more the same, just with deeper grooves worn into his routine. Jordan and Associates grew to 20 employees. They had offices in Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Louis. Michael's schools were being built across the Midwest, changing lives, making a difference. He should have been proud. He should have felt fulfilled. Instead, he felt empty. His penthouse apartment remained pristine and cold. He ate takeout at his desk more often than at his dining table. He went to galas and fundraisers because it was good for business, making small talk with donors and politicians while feeling like a ghost haunting his own life. He dated sporadically. A museum curator named Elizabeth, who was brilliant and boring. A journalist named Sarah, who asked too many personal questions. A doctor named Lisa, who actually made him laugh, but whom he sabotaged by being emotionally unavailable until she gave up. "You're going to end up old and alone," Patricia warned him on his 50th birthday. They were having dinner at a fancy restaurant she'd insisted on booking. "Is that really what you want?" "I don't know what I want anymore," Michael admitted. "Do you still think about her? The woman who left?" Michael touched the ring under his shirt, a gesture that had become so automatic he barely noticed doing it anymore. "Every day," he said quietly. "Have you ever tried to find her? To reach out?" "She asked me not to," Michael said. "She wanted me to move on." "And have you?" Patricia asked. "Moved on?" Michael thought about the 15 years that had passed, thought about the empire he'd built, the lives he'd touched through his work, the success he'd achieved. Thought about the ring he still wore, the empty bed he still slept in, the way his heart still skipped when he saw a woman with dark curly hair in a crowded room, even though it was never Diane. "No," he admitted. "I haven't moved on at all." Patricia reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "Then maybe it's time to try finding her. Get some closure." "Or maybe—" "She didn't want to be found," Michael interrupted. "She made that very clear. That was 15 years ago. People change. Situations change." Michael shook his head. "She has Huntington's disease, Patricia. By now—" He couldn't finish the sentence. By now, she might not even remember him. By now, the disease might have taken everything that made her Diane. By now, it might be too late for anything except grief. "I'm sorry," Patricia said softly. "Me too," Michael said. And then came the morning that changed everything. Michael was 52 years old. He'd spent exactly half his life without Diane. 15 years with her and 15 years without her. The symmetry felt cruel. He was sitting in his office on a Tuesday morning, reviewing plans for a new school in Detroit, when Patricia knocked on his door. "This just came for you," she said, handing him a plain manila envelope. "No return address." Michael took the envelope with only mild curiosity, probably a proposal from a contractor or marketing materials from a supplier. But when he opened it, everything stopped. A photograph, faded and creased, of a wooden bridge in Willow Springs Park, and a note with 3 words in unfamiliar handwriting. She was waiting. Michael's hand started shaking. The ring under his shirt suddenly felt heavy, like it was made of lead instead of silver. "Michael?" Patricia's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Maybe he had. "I need to go to Chicago," Michael heard himself say. "We are in Chicago," Patricia said, confused. "The park. Willow Springs Park. I need to—" He stood up so fast his chair rolled backward and hit the wall. "I need to go. Now!" "Michael, what's going on?" But he was already grabbing his coat, already heading for the door. 15 years of carefully constructed walls were crumbling. 15 years of trying to move on had just become irrelevant. She was waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting where? And who sent this? It didn't matter. All that mattered was getting to that bridge. The bridge where he'd proposed. The bridge where everything had begun and ended. Maybe, impossibly, the bridge where everything could begin again. Or maybe the bridge where he'd finally get the closure he'd never found. Either way, Michael was going. After 15 years of silence, he was finally going back. Patricia called after him, but he didn't stop. He walked out of his office, out of the building, and straight to his car. 3 hours later, as the sun set over Willow Springs Park, Michael stood on the bridge where his entire life had changed 15 years ago. And he saw words carved into the wooden railing, fresh letters cut deep into the weathered wood, words that shattered his heart all over again. But to understand why those words devastated him so completely, to understand what they really meant, you needed to know the truth. The truth that Diane had been hiding all along. The truth that was about to change everything. Michael's footsteps echoed on the wooden planks of the bridge, each step bringing him closer to answers he'd spent 15 years trying to forget he needed. The park looked different than he remembered. The trees were taller, their branches reaching toward the darkening sky like grasping fingers. The stream below the bridge moved slower, clogged with autumn leaves. Even the air smelled different, less like possibility and more like decay. Or maybe nothing had changed except him. Michael's hands gripped the railing, the same railing where he'd carved their initials on a warm summer evening 20 years ago. Where were those initials now? Worn away by weather and time, probably, just like everything else. The carved message was on the far side of the bridge, exactly where the X had marked it in the photograph. Michael could see fresh wood shavings on the planks below, evidence that someone had been here recently. His heart hammered against his ribs. The ring under his shirt felt like it was burning. He took another step, then another, and then he saw it. The words were carved deep, deliberately, lovingly. Someone had taken their time, making sure every letter was clear and readable, making sure the message would last. Michael's vision blurred as he read, "Michael?" But before he could read the rest, before he could process what was written there, he heard footsteps behind him. Michael spun around, his heart leaping into his throat. A young man stood at the edge of the bridge, early 20s maybe, tall and lean, with dark curly hair that caught the fading sunlight. He wore jeans and a worn jacket, and he was carrying a small backpack. But it was his eyes that made Michael's breath catch. Deep brown eyes that he'd know anywhere. Diane's eyes. "Are you Michael Jordan?" the young man asked. His voice trembled slightly. Michael couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. He just nodded. The young man's face crumpled with relief. "Thank God. I was worried you wouldn't come, that the letter wouldn't reach you, or that you'd just ignore it." "Who are you?" Michael finally managed. "My name is Marcus Castellano," the young man said, taking a few steps onto the bridge. "Diane is my aunt. You used to build Legos with me when I was a kid. Do you remember?" Marcus. Little Marcus, who'd asked if Michael was going to be his uncle. Marcus, who'd told him that Aunt Diane was running out of time. But that Marcus had been 10 years old. This Marcus was a man. "I remember," Michael said hoarsely. You're all grown up." 25 now, Marcus said, offering a sad smile. "I wish we were meeting again under better circumstances." Michael's throat tightened. "Where is she? Where's Diane?" Marcus's smile faded. He glanced at the carved message on the railing, then back at Michael. That's why I asked you to come here. Aunt Diane wanted me to. She needs you to understand. Before his voice broke. Before it's too late. Too late for what? Michael demanded. Fear was replacing shock now. Marcus, tell me what's going on. Is Diane here? In Chicago? No, she's in Portland, in a care facility. Marcus swallowed hard. Michael, she doesn't have much time left. The disease, it's progressed faster than anyone expected. The world tilted sideways. Michael grabbed the railing to steady himself. How long? He whispered. The doctors say maybe weeks, maybe a month. Tears filled Marcus's eyes. She's been in and out of lucidity. Some days she doesn't recognize anyone. But 3 months ago, she had a good day. A really good day. And she asked me to do something for her. What? She asked me to find you, Marcus said. To bring you back here and tell you the truth. She said she owed you that much. She said... He pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket. She wrote you a letter, but she wanted me to explain first, to help you understand why she left. I know why she left, Michael said bitterly. She told me. She has Huntington's disease. She didn't want me to watch her deteriorate. She thought she was protecting me. That's part of it, Marcus said. But Michael, there's more. Things you don't know, things she couldn't tell you 15 years ago. Michael felt like he was drowning. Then tell me, please, I've spent 15 years not understanding. Just tell me the truth. Marcus gestured to the bench near the bridge, the same bench where Michael and Diane had their first picnic. We should sit down for this. I don't want to sit down, Michael said. I want answers. Please, Marcus said quietly. Trust me, you're going to want to sit down. Something in his tone made Michael comply. They sat on the bench, the carved message on the bridge railing visible from this angle. Michael still couldn't read all of it. The fading light made it difficult. Marcus took a deep breath. What do you know about Huntington's disease? It's genetic, degenerative, progressive, fatal. Michael recited the words like a list. I did my research after Diane left. I know what it does. I know there's no cure. Did you know that symptoms usually start in someone's 30s or 40s? Yes. Aunt Diane started showing symptoms at 28, Marcus said. That's unusually early. They call it juvenile or early onset Huntington's. It tends to progress faster, more aggressively. Michael's hands clenched into fists. I didn't know that. 3 months after you proposed, Aunt Diane went for what she thought was a routine follow-up appointment, Marcus continued. The doctors did an MRI. What they found... He paused, struggling with emotion. The disease was progressing faster than anyone expected. They told her she probably had 10 to 15 years before major cognitive decline. Maybe 20 if she was lucky. That's why she started pulling away, Michael said. All those appointments she wouldn't explain. The weight loss, the distance. She was trying to figure out what to do, Marcus said. She loved you so much, Michael. Every day she'd come to my mom, her sister Angela, and cry. She wanted to tell you, wanted to marry you anyway, and have whatever time you could have together. But then what? Marcus's jaw tightened. Then the doctors explained what those 10 to 15 years would look like. The progression, the symptoms. First, the motor control issues, tremors, difficulty walking, problems with coordination. Then the cognitive decline, memory loss, personality changes, inability to make decisions. Then the final stage, complete dependence, inability to speak or swallow, needing 24-hour care. I knew all this, Michael said. I would have stayed anyway. I know you would have, Marcus said. That's exactly why she left. Because you would have sacrificed everything. Your dreams of a family, children, a normal life. She couldn't live with that guilt, Michael. She couldn't be the reason you lost everything you'd ever wanted. She was everything I wanted, Michael said, his voice breaking. But that's not all, Marcus said. Michael, there's something else. Something Aunt Diane never told you. Something that made her decision even harder. Michael looked at him. What? Marcus pulled out his phone and opened the photo gallery. He scrolled through pictures, then handed the phone to Michael. This is my cousin Isabella, he said. Aunt Diane's niece. My little sister. Michael looked at the photo. A girl, maybe 7 years old, with dark curly hair and brown eyes. She was wearing a school uniform and grinning at the camera, missing her 2 front teeth. She's beautiful, Michael said, confused. But I don't understand what… Isabella has Huntington's disease too, Marcus said quietly. She tested positive when she was 5. Same as Aunt Diane. Same as Grandma Rosa. Michael's blood went cold. Children can have it. It's genetic, Marcus said. If a parent has the gene, there's a 50% chance each child will inherit it. Aunt Diane saw what was happening to Isabella, a little girl who should have been playing and learning, instead dealing with tremors and medications and doctor's appointments. And she realized any child she had might have it too, Michael finished. Exactly. Marcus took his phone back. That's when she made her final decision. She couldn't risk passing this disease to a child, couldn't risk creating another Isabella. And she knew you wanted kids. You talked about it. A whole family. Children running through the schools you designed together. Michael remembered late-night conversations in bed, Diane's head on his chest, talking about hypothetical children, what they'd name them, what they'd be like, how they'd raise them with love and stability and everything Michael had never had growing up. She took that dream away from me, he whispered. No, Marcus said firmly. The disease took it away from her. She didn't want to take it away from you too. So she set you free to find someone healthy, someone who could give you the family you deserved. I didn't want someone else, Michael said. I wanted her, sick or healthy, with or without children. I just wanted Diane. She knows that now, Marcus said softly. But 15 years ago, she was terrified and heartbroken and convinced she was doing the right thing. Can you understand that? Even a little. Michael stared at the bridge, at the carved message he still hadn't fully read. 15 years. 15 years of thinking Diane had left because she didn't trust him. Didn't think he was strong enough. Didn't believe their love was worth fighting for. But the truth was so much more complicated, so much more heartbreaking. She left because she loved him too much. Because she'd seen a little girl struggling with a devastating disease and couldn't bear the thought of putting Michael through the same thing. Couldn't bear the thought of creating another child doomed to the same fate. What happened to her? Michael asked. These past 15 years, where has she been? What has she been doing? Marcus pulled out the letter Diane had written. She wanted me to tell you, in her own words. But Michael, before you read this, you need to decide something. Decide what? Whether you want to see her, Marcus said. Because if you do, we need to leave for Portland tonight. The doctors say she's declining rapidly. This might be your last chance. Michael's heart stopped. My last chance to say goodbye? Your last chance to see her while she still might recognize you, Marcus clarified. There's no guarantee she will. Like I said, she has good days and bad days. But if you want to try… Of course I want to see her, Michael said immediately. I've wanted to see her for 15 years. Even though she's not the woman you remember, Marcus warned, the disease has changed her, Michael. Her body, her mind, sometimes her personality. She's in a wheelchair now. She needs help with everything. Some days she thinks she's still teaching first grade. Some days she doesn't know who anyone is. I don't care, Michael said fiercely. I don't care what she looks like or whether she recognizes me or any of it. She's Diane. That's all that matters. Marcus nodded slowly, relief evident on his face. Okay, then read her letter, and then we'll go. He handed Michael the folded paper. Michael's hands shook as he unfolded it. The handwriting was Diane's. He'd recognize it anywhere. But it was shakier than he remembered, less controlled, the disease already affecting her motor skills even when she wrote this 3 months ago. My dearest Michael, if you're reading this, it means Marcus found you. It means you came back to our bridge. It means maybe, after all these years, you're willing to listen to what I should have told you 15 years ago. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for the way I left, for the lies and the silence and the pain I caused you. You deserve so much better than what I gave you. Marcus has told you about the disease, about Isabella, about why I thought leaving was the right choice. But I need you to know something else. Something I've never told anyone. Leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than getting the diagnosis, harder than watching my body betray me, harder than accepting that I'll never teach again, or dance, or hold a pen steady. Every single day without you has been agony. I told myself I was being noble, selfless, that I was protecting you from a terrible future. But the truth is, I was also protecting myself from the guilt. From watching your dreams die because of me, from seeing the light go out of your eyes as you realized what you'd sacrificed. I was a coward, Michael. I chose the pain of loneliness over the pain of watching you suffer because of me. I followed your career from afar, read every article about your schools, saw photos of the beautiful spaces you created for children. I was so proud of you, so grateful that you got to live your dreams, even if I couldn't be part of them. But I also need to tell you something else, something important. I never stopped loving you, not for one single day, not for one single moment. I dated a few times early on, tried to move forward like I told you to do, but every man I met was measured against you and found wanting. Every conversation felt hollow, every touch felt wrong. You were my always, Michael. My forever, my one great love, and I threw it away because I was too scared to let you choose. That was my biggest mistake, not the lying or the leaving, though those were terrible enough. My biggest mistake was not trusting you, not believing that you could make your own decision about what you wanted your life to look like. I took away your choice because I thought I knew better, because I was terrified and hurting and convinced I was doing the right thing. I'm so sorry. If you decide to come see me, know that I might not recognize you. The disease has taken so much already. Memory, clarity, control. Some days I don't even recognize myself, but somewhere deep inside, I believe a part of me will always know you, will always love you. Thank you for the happiest years of my life. Thank you for showing me what true love feels like. Thank you for the beautiful ring and the white roses and the proposal on our bridge. Thank you for being everything good in a world that can be very dark. I hope you found happiness, Michael. I hope you built the life you deserved, even if I couldn't be part of it. And if you didn't, if you're reading this letter and realizing you're as stuck in the past as I am, then please do something for me. Forgive yourself. Forgive me. And try one more time to find joy. You deserve it. You've always deserved it. All my love, forever and always. Diane Michael's face was wet with tears. He didn't remember starting to cry, but now he couldn't stop. Great, heaving sobs shook his whole body. Marcus put a hand on his shoulder, saying nothing, just being present. When Michael could finally speak, his voice was raw. I need to see her, now, tonight. However we get there, whatever it takes, I need to see Diane. My car's in the parking lot, Marcus said. It's a 16-hour drive to Portland. We can leave now, drive through the night, get there tomorrow afternoon. Let's go, Michael said, standing up. Then he paused. Wait, the message, on the bridge. I didn't finish reading it. Marcus nodded. She carved that 2 years ago, on one of her last good days before the tremors got too bad. She came back here, we drove all the way from Portland, and she spent 3 hours carving that message. She said if anything happened to her, if she got to the point where she couldn't communicate anymore, she wanted you to know. She made me promise I'd bring you here to read it. Michael walked back to the bridge. The sun had almost set now, just a thin line of orange on the horizon. And he pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. Then he read what Diane had carved. Michael, I said yes because I meant it. I left because I loved you. Every day without you was agony, but every day knowing you were free to live and love and dream was worth it. You were my always. I'm sorry I couldn't be yours. Thank you for the happiness. Thank you for making me believe in forever, even if ours was shorter than we planned. If you find this, know that I never stopped loving you, not for one single day. Your Diane. Michael traced the letters with shaking fingers. Diane had stood here, already sick, already losing control of her hands, and carved this message. For him. So he would know the truth. Your Diane. She was still his. Had always been his. and he had been hers, wearing her ring around his neck for 15 years, unable to let go. "I'm ready," he told Marcus. "Take me to her." As they walked off the bridge toward the parking lot, Michael looked back one more time, at the words carved in wood, at the place where everything began and ended, and maybe could begin again. He touched the ring under his shirt. "I'm coming, Diane," he whispered. "I'm finally coming home." The drive to Portland was the longest 16 hours of Michael's life. Marcus drove the first shift while Michael sat in the passenger seat, staring out at the darkness rushing past. They'd stopped at Michael's penthouse just long enough for him to throw some clothes in a bag and leave a voicemail for Patricia, explaining he'd be gone for a few days, maybe longer. "Family emergency," he'd said, which was both true and inadequate. Now, as they merged onto I-90 heading west, Michael's mind was racing faster than the car. "Tell me about her," he said to Marcus. "The past 15 years. What was her life like in Portland?" Marcus glanced at him, then back at the road. "Are you sure you want to know?" "I need to know," Michael said. "I've spent 15 years imagining the worst. Tell me the truth." Marcus was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "She moved to Portland specifically because there's a research facility there. The Pacific Northwest Huntington Center. They're doing clinical trials, experimental treatments. Aunt Diane wanted to be part of that, to help find a cure, even if it came too late for her." "She was always like that," Michael said softly, "always thinking about helping others." "She got a job teaching first grade at a public school in Northeast Portland," Marcus continued. "She loved those kids. She'd send me photos and videos all the time. Her classroom, her students' artwork, their science projects. She made learning magical for them, even as she was getting sicker." Michael's chest ached. Of course Diane had kept teaching. It was who she was at her core. "How long was she able to work?" "About 8 years, Marcus said. "She finally had to stop when the tremors got too bad. She'd drop things, knock over supplies. One day, she fell in front of her class and couldn't get back up. That's when she knew it was time." Michael closed his eyes, imagining Diane on the classroom floor, embarrassed and scared, trying to smile for her students while her body betrayed her. "What did she do after that?" "She volunteered for a while," Marcus said, "at the Huntington Center, helping newly diagnosed patients navigate the system, giving them hope, sharing her story. She became kind of a spokesperson for the local chapter, did interviews, raised awareness, participated in fundraisers." "That sounds like her too," Michael said. "She was really brave, Michael," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "She faced this disease with so much grace and courage, even when she started losing her balance, when her speech got slurred, when she couldn't remember words. She kept showing up, kept fighting, kept trying to make a difference." "Was she alone? Did she have friends? Someone to take care of her?" Marcus shook his head. "She had a community, other people from the Huntington Center, neighbors, fellow teachers. But romantic relationships? No. I asked her about it once, maybe 5 years ago. She said she'd already had her great love. She wasn't interested in settling for anything less." Michael's hand went to the ring under his shirt. "She said that?" "Her exact words were, 'I had Michael. That was enough for a lifetime.'" Marcus glanced at him. "She really loved you. She talked about you sometimes, especially on her bad days. She'd get confused and think she was still engaged to you, planning the wedding. She'd ask me if you'd approved the flowers yet, if you'd finished your vows." A sob caught in Michael's throat. "God." "I'm sorry," Marcus said quickly. "I shouldn't have—" "No," Michael interrupted. "I want to know. All of it. Even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts." They drove in silence for a while, the highway unspooling before them in the darkness. Michael watched the mile markers flash past, each one bringing him closer to Diane and further from the life he'd built in her absence. "When did she move into the care facility?" he finally asked. 3 months ago, Marcus said. She'd been living in an assisted living apartment, but she had a fall. Broke her hip. After that, she needed more help than part-time caregivers could provide. The doctors recommended 24-hour care. "What's the facility like?" "It's actually really nice," Marcus said. "Evergreen memory care. It specializes in degenerative neurological conditions. The staff are incredible, patient, kind, trained to work with Huntington's patients. There's a garden with white roses. I made sure of that. Michael's eyes filled with tears. White roses, like the ones I planted for the proposal. I remembered, Marcus said softly. I thought it might bring her comfort, and on her good days it does. She sits in the garden and talks about you, about the bridge and the proposal and how happy she was. Does she have many good days? Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Not as many as we'd like. The disease is in the late stages now, Michael. Most days she's confused, doesn't know where she is or what year it is. Some days she doesn't recognize me or my mom, or even Grandma Rosa. But she might recognize me? Michael asked, trying to keep hope alive. I don't know, Marcus admitted. 3 months ago, when she dictated that letter to me, she was having a really good week. She was lucid and present, and she talked about you for hours, about how much she'd missed you, about how she'd made a terrible mistake letting you go. She asked me to find you, to bring you to her so she could apologize face to face. And then she had a series of bad weeks, Marcus said. Really bad. There were days she didn't speak at all, days she didn't seem to know who she was. The doctors adjusted her medications and she stabilized somewhat, but he trailed off. But what? But she's declining, Michael. Faster now. The doctors say it's not unusual in late-stage Huntington's. Things can change very quickly. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Michael might get to Portland and find that Diane didn't know him. Might sit by her bedside and see no recognition in those brown eyes he'd loved for 20 years. Or worse, he might get there too late. Drive faster, Michael said. Marcus did. They stopped only twice during the 16-hour drive. Once for gas and terrible coffee at a truck stop in South Dakota. Once for a bathroom break somewhere in Montana. Michael couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Diane, young and vibrant at the coffee shop, laughing at Willow Springs Park, saying yes to his proposal with tears in her eyes. Then his mind would shift to the Diane he was about to meet, in a wheelchair, unable to control her movements, maybe not recognizing him. The woman he'd loved was already gone in so many ways. What he was driving toward was a shell, a remnant, a fading echo of who she'd been. But she was still Diane, and he'd spent 15 years living half a life, waiting for her without knowing it. He owed it to both of them to see this through. Marcus took over driving again after their Montana stop, insisting Michael try to rest. You're going to need your strength when we get there, Marcus said. I can't sleep, Michael said. But he closed his eyes anyway, and somewhere in eastern Oregon, exhaustion finally pulled him under. He dreamed of Diane, young and healthy in her yellow cardigan, ordering chamomile tea she didn't like just to have an excuse to talk to him. He dreamed of their first kiss on the bridge, the way she tasted like chocolate chip cookies and hope. He dreamed of the proposal, of her saying yes, of white roses and an emerald ring, and a future they'd never gotten to have. Then the dream shifted. Diane was in a hospital bed, reaching for him, but he couldn't get to her. There was glass between them, thick and impenetrable. He could see her crying, calling his name, but he couldn't hear her, couldn't touch her, couldn't help. He woke with a gasp as Marcus pulled into a parking lot. We're here, Marcus said quietly. Michael sat up, disoriented. They were in front of a modern single-story building with lots of windows and well-maintained landscaping. A sign out front read, Evergreen Memory Care, providing compassionate care for those with neurological conditions. It was 3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. Everything looked peaceful and normal. Michael felt like he was going to throw up. Are you ready? Marcus asked. No, Michael admitted, but I'm going in anyway. They got out of the car. Michael's legs were stiff from the long drive, and he had to grab the door to steady himself. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Marcus led him to the entrance. Inside, the facility smelled like lavender and lemon cleaner. Soft music played from hidden speakers. The walls were painted in calming shades of blue and green, with artwork scattered throughout. Landscapes and flowers and peaceful scenes. A nurse at the front desk looked up and smiled when she saw Marcus. Marcus, we weren't expecting you today. Then she noticed Michael and her smile widened. And you brought a friend. This is Michael Jordan, Marcus said. He's here to see Diane Castellano. The nurse's expression changed, surprise mixed with something that looked like hope. Michael Jordan? The Michael Jordan she talks about? I guess so, Michael said, his voice rough. Oh my goodness, the nurse said, coming around the desk. She was middle-aged with kind eyes and laugh lines. She's been having a good day today, a really good day. She was just in the garden asking me what year it is. When I told her it was 2025, she got very agitated, said she needed to tell someone something important before it was too late. Marcus and Michael exchanged glances. Can we see her? Marcus asked. Of course, let me just check. The nurse picked up a phone and had a brief conversation with someone. Then she hung up and smiled. Dr. Patel says it's fine. Diane's in the garden. Follow me. She led them through a series of hallways, past common rooms where elderly residents sat watching television or playing cards, past individual rooms with names on the doors, past a physical therapy area where a woman was working with a walker. Michael's palms were sweating. He wiped them on his jeans. They reached a set of French doors that opened onto a courtyard garden. And that's when Michael saw her. Diane sat in a wheelchair facing a bed of white roses. She wore a simple blue dress, and her dark curly hair was streaked with silver now, pulled back in a loose bun. Even from behind, Michael could see the tremor in her shoulders, the involuntary movements that characterized late-stage Huntington's. She looked so small, so fragile, nothing like the vibrant woman who used to dance around their apartment, making pasta sauce and singing off-key to Italian love songs. But it was her. It was Diane. The nurse touched Michael's arm gently. Take your time. And Mr. Jordan, thank you for coming. She's been waiting a long time. Then she and Marcus stepped back inside, giving Michael privacy. Michael stood frozen for a moment, his heart in his throat. This was it. After 15 years of silence, of wondering, of living half a life, this was the moment. He walked forward on shaking legs. Diane, he said softly. Her head turned at the sound of his voice, a slow, jerky movement that spoke to her lack of motor control. When she saw him, her eyes went wide. For one terrible second, Michael thought she didn't recognize him, that he'd come all this way only to be met with blank confusion. But then Diane's trembling hand reached up to cover her mouth, and tears spilled down her cheeks. Michael? She whispered, her speech slurred but understandable. My Michael, is it really you? Michael dropped to his knees beside her wheelchair, his own tears falling freely now. Yes, it's really me. I'm here, Diane. I'm here. She reached for him with shaking hands, and he caught them in his own, steadying them. Her fingers were thin and cold, but they gripped his with surprising strength. You found my message, she said, her words coming slowly, carefully. On the bridge. You went back. I went back, Michael confirmed, and I read every word, everything you carved, everything you wrote in your letter. I'm so sorry, Diane sobbed. I'm so sorry for leaving, for lying, for wasting all those years we could have had together. Shh, Michael said, bringing her hands to his lips and kissing them. We're going to talk about all of that, but first I need to tell you something. He reached under his shirt and pulled out the silver chain. Diane's eyes fixed on the emerald ring dangling from it, and she made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. You kept it, she whispered. I never took it off, Michael said. Not for one day in 15 years. This ring was a promise, Diane. And I don't break my promises. He slipped the chain over his head and carefully, gently, slid the ring onto her trembling finger. It still fit perfectly. Diane stared at the ring through her tears, then looked back at Michael. But I broke my promise to you. I said yes, and then I left, and You did what you thought was right, Michael interrupted. You were scared and sick and trying to protect me. I understand that now. Marcus explained everything. The disease progression, Isabella, all of it. You don't hate me? Diane asked, her voice breaking. Hate you? Michael cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away her tears. Diane, I have loved you every single day for the past 20 years. Every morning I woke up without you. Every night I went to bed alone. Every building I designed thinking about what you would have wanted. You have been the center of my entire life, even when you weren't in it. Diane was crying so hard now that her whole body shook. Michael pulled her forward and wrapped his arms around her, holding her as tightly as he dared, feeling how thin she'd become, how fragile. I love you, he whispered into her hair. I never stopped loving you, and I'm not going anywhere this time. Do you hear me, Diane? I'm staying. But the disease, she protested weakly. I'm not the woman you remember. I can't walk. I can't feed myself properly. Some days I don't remember my own name. You can't. I can, Michael said firmly. I can and I will. You took away my choice 15 years ago, but you can't take it away now. I choose you, Diane, sick or healthy, good days or bad days. Whatever time we have left, I choose you. Diane pulled back to look at him, searching his face. You mean it? I mean it, Michael said. Diane Castellano, I made you a promise on a bridge 15 years ago. I promised to love you in sickness and in health, for better or for worse, for as long as we both shall live. You never gave me the chance to keep that promise, but I'm keeping it now. Michael, Diane whispered, are you asking me to marry you? Again? Michael smiled through his tears. I never stopped asking. You just never gave me an answer I could accept. What if I only have weeks left? Diane asked. What if I decline quickly? What if tomorrow I wake up and don't know who you are? Then I'll tell you, Michael said simply. I'll tell you every day who I am and who you are and how much I love you. And on the days when you don't remember, I'll remember for both of us. Diane stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly, shakily, she smiled. It was the same smile he remembered from 20 years ago. Just a little crooked now because of the disease. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Michael. I'll marry you. Michael kissed her then, gently, carefully, tasting salt from both their tears. When they pulled apart, Diane was laughing. A weak, trembling sound, but genuine. We've done this before, she said. And this time, we're going to actually go through with it, Michael promised. Marcus appeared in the doorway, having given them enough time alone. His face was wet with tears, but he was smiling. I take it we're planning a wedding, he asked. We're planning a wedding, Michael confirmed, not taking his eyes off Diane. How soon, Marcus asked. Michael looked at Diane, at the ring on her finger, at the woman he'd loved for 20 years and lost for 15. He thought about doctors' predictions and disease progression and time running out. As soon as possible, he said. This weekend if we can manage it. This weekend? Marcus looked shocked. Michael, that's 3 days away. We'd need to. Then we'd better get started, Michael said. He finally looked at Marcus. Can you help me? I don't know anyone in Portland. I don't know the laws or the requirements or... I'll help, Marcus promised. I'll call my mom. We'll figure it out. Diane squeezed Michael's hand, drawing his attention back to her. You really want to marry me this weekend? Even though I'm... She gestured at herself, at the wheelchair, at the tremors that never stopped. Especially because, Michael said. We've wasted enough time, Diane. I'm not wasting another day. A nurse appeared, a different one this time, younger. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's time for Ms. Castellano's medications and physical therapy session. Can I stay with her? Michael asked. The nurse looked surprised. During therapy? During everything, Michael clarified. I'm not leaving. The nurse glanced at Diane, who nodded. He can stay, Diane said firmly. All right then, the nurse said with a kind smile. Let's get you inside, Ms. Castellano. Mr. Jordan, you're welcome to follow. As the nurse wheeled Diane back toward the building, Michael walked beside her, holding her hand. Marcus followed behind, already on his phone making calls. Michael? Diane said as they entered the facility. Yeah? Thank you for coming back for me. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for... Her voice broke. Thank you for loving me anyway. Michael stopped walking and knelt beside her wheelchair again. Diane, listen to me very carefully. There is no anyway. There is no despite or in spite of. I love you. Period. Full stop. The disease doesn't change that. Nothing could ever change that. You're going to make me cry again, Diane said, already crying. Good, Michael said, kissing her hand. Cry all you want. We have 15 years of tears to catch up on. As they continued down the hallway, Michael felt something shift inside his chest. For the first time in 15 years, he felt whole, complete, like a part of him that had been missing had finally clicked back into place. He'd found Diane. Against all odds, after all these years, he'd found her. And this time, he was never letting go. The next 3 days were a blur of phone calls, paperwork, and small miracles. Marcus's mother, Angela, drove down from Seattle within hours of getting the call. She arrived at Evergreen Memory Care with tears streaming down her face, pulling Michael into a fierce hug before he could even say hello. You came back, she sobbed into his shoulder. After everything, you came back for her. I never really left, Michael said. Rosa and Vincent were too frail to make the trip from Chicago. Rosa's own Huntington symptoms were progressing, and Vincent's heart condition made travel risky, but they video called that first night. Rosa wept when she saw Michael sitting beside Diane's wheelchair in the facility's common room. I prayed for this, Rosa said in Italian, then in English. Every night for 15 years, I prayed that somehow you would find your way back to each other. Your prayers worked, Mama, Diane said, her speech slow but clear. She was having another good day, the doctor said. The excitement and joy seemed to be keeping her lucid. Get married quickly, Rosa urged. Don't wait. Don't waste a single moment. We won't, Michael promised. Getting a marriage license in Oregon required a 3-day waiting period that could be waived under certain circumstances. Michael made calls, pulled strings, explained the situation to anyone who would listen. Diane's doctor, Dr. Patel, wrote a letter explaining the urgency due to her declining condition. By Friday afternoon, they had the waiver. The wedding was scheduled for Saturday at 2 p.m. Michael spent those 3 days rarely leaving Diane's side. He was there for her physical therapy sessions, watching as therapists helped her practice basic movements her body was forgetting how to do. Reaching for objects, gripping a fork, standing for 30 seconds while supported. He was there for her meals, helping guide the spoon to her mouth when her tremors made it impossible, wiping her chin when food spilled, pretending not to notice when she got frustrated by her body's betrayal. He was there during her medication rounds, learning the names and purposes of each pill. Tetrabenazine for the involuntary movements, antidepressants for mood stability, pain medication for the muscle cramps. He was there during her confused moments too. On Friday morning, Diane woke up convinced she was still teaching first grade. She asked Michael if he'd helped Marcus with his homework and whether the parent-teacher conferences were scheduled yet. Everything's taken care of, Michael said gently, going along with her confusion rather than correcting it. The nurses had taught him that arguing with Huntington's patients only caused distress. Good, Diane said. She looked at him closely. Do I know you? You seem familiar. Michael's heart broke, but he kept his voice steady. I'm Michael. We're getting married tomorrow. Diane's face brightened. We are? That's wonderful. I didn't know I had a fiancé. Then more quietly, am I supposed to remember you? You will, Michael promised. Just give it time. 2 hours later, the fog lifted and Diane recognized him again. She cried when Marcus told her what she'd said earlier. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I hate this. I hate that my brain does this. It's okay, Michael soothed, holding her. On the days you don't remember me, I'll remember for both of us. I told you that. You really meant it, Diane whispered. I really meant it, Michael confirmed. The wedding planning was unconventional but perfect. Marcus and Angela handled most of the logistics. The ceremony would be held in Evergreen's garden among the white roses. The facility's events coordinator helped arrange chairs and decorations. The staff members were invited. Many of them had cared for Diane for months and had become like family. Michael called Patricia back in Chicago. I need you to do something for me. Anything, Patricia said. Are you okay? Your voicemail was cryptic. I'm getting married on Saturday. Silence, then. I'm sorry, what? Michael explained everything. About Diane, about the 15 years, about finding her message on the bridge, and driving to Portland and proposing again to a woman who might not have weeks left. "Oh my God, Michael," Patricia said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm getting on a plane. Don't argue with me. I'm your best friend, and I'm going to be there." She arrived Friday night, took one look at Michael sitting beside Diane's wheelchair, and burst into tears. "You found her," Patricia said. "I found her," Michael agreed. Patricia knelt in front of Diane's wheelchair. "Hi, I'm Patricia. I've worked with Michael for 8 years, and I've never seen him happy. Not really, not until right now." Diane smiled, that crooked, trembling smile that Michael had fallen in love with. "Thank you for taking care of him when I couldn't. Thank you for coming back to him," Patricia said. They couldn't find a wedding dress that would work with Diane's wheelchair and limited mobility, so Angela found a simple white sundress that was easy to get on and off. It had short sleeves and a loose fit, comfortable and pretty. Marcus drove Michael to a men's store where he bought a navy suit. "Nothing too formal," Michael said. "This isn't about showing off. It's about keeping a promise." On Friday night, Michael stayed at a hotel near the facility. He couldn't sleep. He lay in the dark, touching the ring that was no longer around his neck. It was back on Diane's finger where it belonged, and thinking about the next day. He was marrying Diane. Finally, after 20 years of loving her and 15 years of losing her, he was actually going to marry her. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Aunt Diane is having a good night. She's excited and lucid. She made me promise to make sure you show up tomorrow." Michael smiled and texted back, "I'll be there. Wild horses couldn't keep me away." Another text, this time from Patricia. "I can't believe you kept that ring for 15 years. That's the most romantic thing I've ever heard." Michael replied, "It was never really mine to keep. I was just holding it until I could give it back to her." He finally dozed off around 3 a.m. and woke at dawn. He showered and dressed carefully, his hands shaking as he knotted his tie. This was it, his wedding day. 15 years late, but finally happening. The garden at Evergreen Memory Care had been transformed. White roses were everywhere, in planters and bouquets, scattered as petals along the makeshift aisle. Chairs were arranged in neat rows, already filling with guests. Facility staff in their scrubs sat alongside Diane's family members who'd made the trip. Other residents from Evergreen attended too, some in wheelchairs, some with walkers, all dressed in their best clothes. Patricia stood near the front, dabbing her eyes with a tissue even though the ceremony hadn't started yet. Michael waited at the end of the aisle, Marcus standing beside him as best man. "You nervous?" Marcus asked. "Terrified," Michael admitted. "What if she has a bad moment? What if she doesn't recognize me when she comes down the aisle?" "Then you'll remind her," Marcus said simply, "and you'll marry her anyway. That's what you do." Music started, a simple acoustic guitar played by one of the facility's music therapists. The guests stood and turned toward the garden entrance, and there was Diane. Angela was pushing her wheelchair, moving slowly and carefully. Diane wore the white sundress with a crown of white roses in her silver-streaked hair. Her hands trembled in her lap, but her eyes were clear and focused. When she saw Michael waiting for her, her face lit up with pure joy. The ceremony was short and simple. The officiant, a local judge who'd waived his normal fee when he heard their story, kept it brief, understanding that Diane tired easily. "We are gathered here today," the judge began, "to witness the marriage of two people who have loved each other for 20 years, through separation and sorrow, through illness and uncertainty. Their love has endured when most would have given up. It has survived 15 years of silence and distance. And today, finally it brings them together in marriage." He looked at Michael. "Michael, do you take Diane to be your lawfully wedded wife? To have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, for as long as you both shall live?" "I do," Michael said, his voice strong and clear. "I've been saying I do for 15 years. I'm finally glad someone's listening." Gentle laughter rippled through the guests. Diane smiled. The judge turned to Diane. "And Diane, do you take Michael to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, for as long as you both shall live?" Diane's hand shook as she reached for Michael's. I do, she said, her speech slightly slurred but determined. I said yes 20 years ago. I'm saying yes again now. And I'll keep saying yes every day for whatever time we have left. The rings, the judge prompted. Marcus handed Michael a simple silver wedding band. Michael had bought it yesterday, a match for the engagement ring Diane already wore. Michael took Diane's trembling hand and carefully slid the band onto her finger. With this ring, I thee wed. Finally, actually, for real this time. More laughter, more tears. Angela handed Diane a ring for Michael, a simple gold band that she'd helped Diane pick out online the day before. Diane's hands shook so badly that she couldn't hold the ring steady. Michael started to help her, but she shook her head. Let me do this, she whispered. Please. It took 3 tries, her hands trembling and missing his finger twice. But finally the ring slid into place. Diane looked up at Michael with tears streaming down her face. With this ring, she said slowly, carefully enunciating each word, I promise to love you for whatever time I have left. Even on days when I don't remember your name, my heart will know you. Even when I can't speak, I'll love you. Even when, her voice broke, even when I'm gone, I'll still be loving you. The judge cleared his throat, clearly moved. By the power vested in me by the state of Oregon, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Michael, you may kiss your bride. Michael knelt beside Diane's wheelchair and cupped her face in his hands. He kissed her gently, tenderly, tasting her tears in his own. When they pulled apart, the small crowd erupted in applause. Patricia was sobbing openly. Marcus was grinning through his tears. Even some of the nurses were crying. Michael stood and took the handles of Diane's wheelchair from Angela. May I? He asked. She's all yours, Angela said, stepping back. Michael wheeled Diane back down the aisle as husband and wife. The guests threw white rose petals. The sun broke through the clouds, flooding the garden with golden light. For the first time in 15 years, Michael felt completely, perfectly happy. They had a small reception in Evergreen's common room. There was cake that Diane could only eat a few bites of. There was sparkling cider instead of champagne because of Diane's medications. There was music and dancing, or rather, Michael dancing with Diane in her wheelchair, spinning her gently while she laughed. Rosa and Vincent called again from Chicago. You did it, Rosa said, crying. You actually did it. We did it, Mama, Diane said. I'm married. I'm Mrs. Michael Jordan. Not the basketball player, Michael added, making everyone laugh. As the afternoon wore on, Diane began to tire. The excitement and emotion were draining. Michael could see her starting to fade. I should get her back to her room, he told Marcus. I'll help, Marcus offered, but Diane shook her head. Just Michael. I want just Michael. Michael wheeled her down the quiet hallway to her private room. The staff had decorated it with white roses and photos that Marcus had brought, pictures of Diane and Michael from 20 years ago. Young and in love and unaware of what was coming. Michael helped Diane change into comfortable pajamas, then lifted her carefully from the wheelchair to the bed. She weighed so little now, like a bird. He lay down beside her, fully clothed, just holding her. We're married, Diane whispered, staring at her rings in the fading sunlight. We're married, Michael confirmed. I'm sorry it took so long. It was worth the wait. Diane turned to look at him. Michael, I need to tell you something. While I still can, while I'm still lucid. Okay. She took a shaky breath. The doctors say I'm declining faster than expected. They think I might have weeks, maybe days. They can't be sure. Michael's throat tightened, but he kept his voice steady. Then we'll make every day count. I want you to know, Diane continued, that marrying you today was the best decision I ever made. Second best, actually. The best was saying yes the first time, 20 years ago. Leaving you was the worst. But coming back, being honest with you, letting you choose this time, that was right. It was right, Michael agreed. And when I'm gone, Diane, let me say this, she interrupted gently. When I'm gone, I don't want you to mourn for 15 more years. I want you to remember the good parts, the happiness. I want you to design beautiful schools and maybe, if you meet someone who makes you smile, I want you to let yourself love again. There won't be anyone else, Michael said. You don't know that. I do know that, Michael said firmly. You are it for me, Diane. You always have been. You always will be. When you're gone, I'll keep living because you'd want me to. I'll keep designing schools and helping kids because that was our dream. But love someone else? No. You're my person. You're my always. Diane was crying again. I don't deserve you. You deserve everything, Michael said. You deserve a cure and a long life and decades more of teaching children and dancing in the kitchen and killing houseplants. She laughed through her tears. I do kill a lot of plants. The worst, Michael agreed. But I love you anyway. They lay together as the sun set, painting the room in shades of orange and pink. Diane's tremors gradually calmed as she relaxed against Michael's chest. Tell me about our wedding, she said drowsily, in case I don't remember tomorrow. So Michael did. He described every detail. The white roses, Patricia crying, the vows, the kiss, the way the sun had broken through the clouds at exactly the right moment. It sounds perfect, Diane murmured. It was perfect, Michael said. I love you, Michael Jordan. I love you too, Mrs. Jordan. Diane's eyes drifted closed. Say it again. I want to fall asleep hearing it. I love you, Michael whispered. I love you. I love you. I love you. Michael and Diane had 8 more months together as husband and wife. 8 months that should have been 40 years, but 8 months that Michael treasured more than anything in his life. Some days were good. Diane would be lucid and present, and they'd sit in the garden talking about the past, about their first date, about the time Michael tried to cook her an Italian dinner and set off the smoke alarm, about all the children she'd taught and all the schools he'd designed. On those good days, they'd look through photo albums that Marcus had compiled. They'd video call with Rosa and Vincent and Diane's siblings. They'd watch movies together in her room, Diane's head on Michael's shoulder. Some days were hard. Diane would wake up confused, not knowing where she was or who Michael was. He'd sit patiently beside her bed, introducing himself again. Hi, I'm Michael. I'm your husband. I love you very much. Sometimes she'd remember after a few minutes. Sometimes it would take hours. Sometimes she wouldn't remember at all that day, and Michael would just be a kind stranger who sat with her. On those days, Michael would tell her their story. How they met at a coffee shop, how he wrote his number on her cup, how they fell in love at Willow Springs Park, how he proposed with a ring shaped like children holding hands. Sometimes Diane would cry, apologizing for not remembering. Sometimes she'd just listen, watching his face like she was trying to memorize it. Michael moved permanently to Portland. He sold his Chicago firm to Patricia and started a small consulting practice he could do remotely. He rented an apartment 2 blocks from Evergreen so he could be there every single day. He was there for breakfast, helping Diane eat oatmeal when her hands shook too badly to hold the spoon. He was there for physical therapy, encouraging her through exercises that got harder each week. He was there for lunch and dinner and bedtime. The staff got used to seeing him. They set up a cot in Diane's room so he could sleep there most nights. He became like part of the facility, helping other residents when Diane was resting, chatting with the nurses, learning everyone's names. You're a good man, Mr. Jordan, Dr. Patel told him one afternoon. Not everyone would do this. She's my wife, Michael said simply. Where else would I be? 6 months into their marriage, Diane had a particularly bad week. She didn't recognize anyone, didn't speak, just stared at the ceiling with vacant eyes while her body trembled with involuntary movements. Michael sat beside her bed for hours, holding her hand, talking to her, even though she gave no sign of hearing him. I'm still here, Diane, he'd say. I'm not going anywhere. Take all the time you need. I'll be right here when you come back. On the 7th day of her silence, as Michael was reading aloud from one of Diane's favorite books, her fingers suddenly squeezed his hand. He looked up. Her eyes were focused on his face, clear and present. Michael, she whispered. I'm here, he said, leaning close. Did I go away again? For a little while, but you came back. I'm scared, Diane admitted. I'm scared that one day I'll go away and won't come back. Michael kissed her hand. Then I'll hold down the fort until you do. And if you don't come back, if you slip away into that place where I can't follow, I'll still be here, loving you, remembering for both of us. Promise? I promise. 8 months after their wedding, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in June, Diane took a turn for the worse. Michael was reading to her in the garden, her wheelchair positioned among the white roses, when her breathing suddenly changed, became shallow and labored. "Diane," he said, setting down the book. Her eyes were closed, but her hand found his and gripped it weakly. "Michael," she breathed, "I'm so tired." "I know, sweetheart. Do you want to go back inside and rest?" "No." Her eyes opened, clearer than they'd been in weeks. "I want to stay here, with you, with the roses." Michael's heart clenched. He knew what this was. He'd known it was coming. The nurses had prepared him. "Okay," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "We'll stay right here." He pulled a chair next to her wheelchair and held both her hands. The roses swayed gently in the breeze. The sun was warm. It was a beautiful day. "I need to tell you something," Diane said, each word an effort. "Anything. These past 8 months with you have been the happiest of my life." She paused to catch her breath. "Even with the disease, even with everything, being your wife, having you by my side every day, it was worth all the pain and fear. It was worth everything." "For me too," Michael said, tears streaming down his face. "I'm ready now," Diane whispered. "I'm tired of fighting. Tired of this body that doesn't work anymore. Tired of forgetting who you are." "I know," Michael said. "Will you be okay when I'm gone?" "No," Michael admitted. "I'll be heartbroken and devastated and lost. But I'll survive, because you taught me how to love, and that's something I'll carry with me forever." Diane smiled, that beautiful, crooked smile he loved. "You found me. When I was lost, you came back and found me." "Always," Michael promised. "Thank you for loving me anyway," Diane breathed. "Thank you for the proposal and the white roses and the wedding. Thank you for keeping your promise." "Thank you for letting me," Michael said. Diane's eyes began to close. Her breathing slowed. "I love you," she whispered. "I'll love you beyond." "I love you too," Michael said. "More than you'll ever know." "Tell me one more time," Diane murmured, "so it's the last thing I hear." Michael leaned close, his lips near her ear, and whispered, "I love you, Diane Jordan, with everything I am, forever and always." Diane's face relaxed into peace. Her grip on his hands loosened. And then, surrounded by white roses and warm sunshine, with her husband holding her hands and whispering words of love, Diane Castellano Jordan took her last breath. 3 months later, Michael stood on the bridge at Willow Springs Park one final time. He carried a small wooden box containing some of Diane's ashes. The rest had been scattered in Portland's rose garden, per her wishes. But Michael wanted to bring part of her home, to the place where it all began. The October afternoon was cool and clear, the trees ablaze with autumn color, just like they'd been 20 years ago when he proposed. Michael opened the box and scattered Diane's ashes into the stream below the bridge. They drifted on the current, catching the sunlight, disappearing into the water. "I kept my promise," he said aloud. "I married you. I loved you until your last breath, and I'll love you beyond." He pulled out a knife he'd brought and added his own carving beneath Diane's message on the railing. "I found you. I married you. I loved you until your last breath, and I'll love you beyond. You were always mine, and I was always yours. You're Michael." He stepped back to look at both carvings together, their story, preserved in wood, a testament to a love that had survived 15 years of separation and transcended death itself. As Michael stood there, a white rose petal drifted down from somewhere and landed on his shoulder. There were no white roses blooming this late in the season, no rational explanation for where it came from. But Michael smiled anyway. "I see you," he whispered to the wind. "I'll see you again someday, Diane. When it's my time, I'll find you, and this time, nothing will pull us apart." The wind picked up, rustling through the trees, and for just a moment it sounded like laughter. Diane's laughter. Michael touched his wedding ring. He wore two now, his and hers on a chain around his neck, just like he'd worn her engagement ring for 15 years. Some promises are worth keeping, no matter how long it takes. Some love stories don't end. They just change form. And as Michael walked away from Willow Springs Park for the last time, he felt Diane walking beside him. Not in the physical world, but in his heart, in his memories, in every building he would design, and every life he would touch. She was gone, but she would never truly leave, because love like theirs doesn't die. It just transforms into something eternal. So, where are you listening from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. We love hearing from our viewers around the world. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you help us spread more stories of love, hope, and kindness to people who need to hear them. And don't stop here. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another incredible story that will remind you why love is worth fighting for. Thank you for watching, and remember, true love never gives up.